already.
Okay, so the rules are to please project your voice as you're being recorded. Please hold your responses to 3 minutes or less per question. Each candidate has the floor uninterrupted while they answer their questions. We'll provide cues for 1 minute remaining and 30 seconds remaining for time on the clock. And there will be one follow-up question may be asked for response. Okay?
Okay.
Everybody good? Okay. Mr. Martin, how will you disseminate information to the media?
During my time at the Lake County Sheriff's Department, I brought the Nixle program to the Sheriff's Department. It wasn't my idea, however, I brought the idea to the Sheriff's Department. I felt that it was a very good tool for us to use. I plan to continue using Nixle, however, I plan to use it not as simply a press release tool. I believe that it's been used as not as its intended purpose. I will use other forms of media, email, Twitter account. I'd like to have more of a presence on Facebook and really exploit the power of the internet in getting that information out. That being said, I will do my best to disseminate the media to the media and members of the public in a fair and impartial manner. I will not choose favorites. I will not exclude certain members of the media based on political opinions, and be fully in compliance with Public Records Act laws and open access laws. To me, one of the most important things and one of the most American things that we have is freedom of press and freedom of speech in this country. We are a country that was formed on the basis that we have a mistrust of an overpowerful and tyrannical government, and those amendments and those freedoms that are available to us are in the First Amendment of the Constitution because they are very dear and important to us. I will continually strive to maintain open communications. There will certainly be times when I'm not able to disclose information, and that might be for reasons that the information is not legally allowed to be disclosed. It might be for reasons that it may hamper an ongoing investigation, or it may put people's lives in danger. In those situations, you will not hear silence from me. You will hear a response, and you will get a response, and every other media outlet that seeks a response will get one. The response may very well be that we cannot comment on that. If the situation provides that I can give you the reason that I'm not commenting or providing information, then you will get that reason. As soon as the information can be released, if ever, it will be released. I've had a lot of trainings in Public Records Act training, in media relationships. I've served as the Public Information Officer both at the Sheriff's Department and the Lake County Probation Department. And I fully understand the laws surrounding Public Records Act, open access, and more importantly, the ideas behind transparency in government. That's all.
Mr. Rivero, what grade do you give yourself as the current sheriff of Lake County?
I had to give myself a 9.
Can you elaborate?
Well, I've accomplished most of my promises that I made during the campaign, and certainly tried on the ones that I have not. I have improved the sheriff's office in many ways. The relationship between the public and the deputies has improved dramatically, and that is proved by our random surveys. I've instituted programs such as random school checks, and we also check businesses. We have programs for addressing individuals who are subject to 290 registration, which is sex registration, where we do regular sweeps to make our presence known to these individuals to keep them hopefully from reoffending. I've advocated for the officers as well as the public, but I think most of all, I have never turned my back on the public. I have when faced with a decision of whether to join a club, an instituted club in this county of people who are powerful and politically connected, as opposed to continuing to serve and advocate the people of this county, I've always chosen the latter.
Mr. Martin, as sheriff, what would be your top 3 priorities regarding a proactive approach to public safety?
My top 3 priorities in this particular order are, in fact, reestablishing relationships. I differ in my opinion of the sheriff's relationship with the community and also with his relationship with other law enforcement agencies and service providers in our county. My first priority would be to reestablish those relationships. The relationship that the Sheriff's Department has had with our community has been damaged and not completely during his term, but prior to that. And there's a severe level of mistrust in a lot of areas between law enforcement in this county and statewide and the community we serve. And I really recognize that keeping our community safe is not the sole job of the sheriff. It takes a community effort, it takes cooperation between departments and agencies, and it takes cooperation with members of the community. So my first priority is to reestablish those relationships and do what I can to regain that trust that is so desperately needed to run effective law enforcement. My next task would be to implement a standardized training program and implement a philosophy of daily training. My military service time really instilled in me the importance of every day doing a little bit of training and making yourself a little bit better. And this is one agency that I've worked at that has failed in that capacity in my view, and again, not just during the current sheriff's administration, but in the previous sheriffs. And I really want to bring that philosophy of ongoing professional training. We have truly professional employees. The Sheriff's Department here in Lake County has a long history of only hiring the most qualified people. However, sometimes I think that we have failed them in our efforts to develop them to their fullest potential. And I want to institute a training program that takes full advantage of the good people we have working here. And the third thing that I would do is bring improvements and advances in technology. It seems that we here in Lake County are always 15 years or so behind the times as far as technological advances. And there's a lot of headway that's been made over the last 10, 15 years in law enforcement, a lot of changes in technology, PDAs, we have license plate readers that are out there, GPS units. I would like to have GPS units installed in all the cars, and I'd also like to have body cameras issued to all the patrol officers to augment the already in use in-car video cameras that we have available. I think those will go a long way towards giving our officers the tools that they need to successfully perform their job while working towards regaining that trust that's been damaged over the last several years.
Mr. Rivero, how will you disseminate information to the media?
I will continue to do what I have been doing. Our general orders through Lakeport state that our primary dissemination is through Nixle, which is something that I have used for press releases and will continue to use for press releases. I will continue to make my press officer available to answer questions for the media, and I will continue to make myself available to answer questions for the media.
I have one question concerning the substations in Lake County. What are your plans for the substations in Lake County? Keep them open, close them down, make greater use of them? As sheriff, what are your plans for the substations that are currently in the county?
And I assume that question is directed towards me.
That's you
Yes.
first, Mr. Martin.
Yes, I think it's very important to maintain the substations where they're at. We are separated by a large body of water here in the middle of the jurisdiction. It makes it very difficult to respond directly to locations. I want to add, I spoke about technology a little while ago, and I want to increase our use of technology and have teleconferencing or web chatting available so that we can have that daily training. Daily briefings need to be conducted, but our deputies can remain on station in their beats and their jurisdictions ready to respond in a quick and efficient manner. Right now we have a lot of substations, and I think the manpower shortage that's experienced in the patrol division doesn't allow them to be adequately staffed. They're very important to serve our communities. I want to increase the volunteer force that has declined over the last several years and have volunteers staff those substations where people can go in there and maybe obtain a copy of a report, get a question answered, or express a concern without having to drive all the way into Lakeport. I will make available civil services there, so if somebody wants to file for an eviction or a wage garnishment or a levy, they don't need to come all the way to Lakeport. That's something they can do in their own community and respond to the substation.
Mr. Rivero, same question. Do you
Yes,
have,
sir.
do you,
Yes,
if
sir.
elected again, do you have plans for the substations that are not currently being used, or?
The substations are in fact currently being used, and I've had a lot of positive feedback from the public concerning having the officers in the community, both by way of response time and just availability. The idea of decentralizing law enforcement, although I used that as a premise or one of my promises when I took office, which is a promise that I kept, has been around for a long time. This is nothing new to decentralize law enforcement services, much like the fire and medical has been decentralized for many, many years. The thing that I would like to do additionally is have an additional substation in the Rivieras and in Lower Lake. We do have a very large geographical area to cover. Some of these issues, though, have to be tempered a bit with the funding. I struggled very hard to get a substation in Clear Lake Oaks, and I fought the Board of Supervisors over that for a long time. We had the funds available through the Sheriff's Rural Funds to purchase a building that I thought was the perfect location for that substation, and that idea never came to fruition, at least using that particular building or buying that building. I think we need to establish roots. So beyond opening another location in the Rivieras and one in Lower Lake, which I think would accomplish the entire decentralization that I started in 2011, the use of these facilities is really part of the buy-in from the deputies into the community policing model, where they become part of the community. They take responsibility for their area, their zones, and that helps tremendously with relations.
Mr. Rivero, what personal and professional characteristics make you the right person to serve as sheriff for a second tenure?
Well, personally, I think I'm an individual who is very tenacious. When I start something, I finish it. I am also an individual who tries to do the right thing all the time. Nobody's perfect, everyone makes mistakes. But my intent is always to try to be the vessel for the people, to listen to the people, to answer to the people, because I work for the people and I am the chief law enforcement officer for the county, and I have to institute those things. So my tenaciousness and my willingness to understand the relationship between an elected official and a person who's a law enforcement, both, and the people are very important aspects. And my character in general, I have provided very good leadership for the men and women of the Sheriff's Office, and that is truly demonstrated in the results. When all is said and done, I'm running on my results. When you look at the amount of work that the deputies have done in this county to clean up methamphetamine and other drugs, it's astonishing what we've been able to do with the limited resources. As far as professionally, I graduated #1 out of my academy class with SFPD. I cut my teeth in probably the roughest neighborhood in San Francisco, Potrero District. It's called the Bayview, Hunters Point. I have business experience. I've always been able to balance budgets and take care of the money side of it also. In other words, not have this pie in the sky idea that you could just buy anything you want. management training. I've also had, much post-training, but I've had post-management training and also executive training through post. And I've also learned a great deal on the job as sheriff.
Mr. Martin, the same question. What personal and professional characteristics make you the right person to serve as sheriff?
I think the most important personal characteristics are who you see as who you get. I don't change to fit a situation. I'm the person here that's sitting here that I've been, who you will see in 3 or 4 years, who you've seen 8 years, and who you will see in 12 years. I believe that I'm very approachable. I try to be as articulate as I can, and I try to be very understanding to the problems that face our community. As far as professionally, the sheriff, I congratulate him on his graduation at #1 at his police academy. I too graduated at the top of my police academy, as well as the distinguished honor graduate of my military police academy. My professional experience includes military experience. I'm the only veteran in this race. I served 5 years as a military police soldier. I've been a lifelong civil servant. My entire adult career I've dedicated to serving the public in one capacity or another. I think I have the education that it takes to get this job done. I have a Bachelor of Science degree, which I completed in 2011. My degree is in public administration with a concentration in criminal justice. The post-training that I have numbers over 1,900 hours of training, including management, including homicide investigations, everything from basic crime scene investigations to field training. I've served at just about every position that the sheriff's law enforcement has to offer, including being a training officer, being a first line supervisor, being a manager, and being the assistant chief of the probation department where I'm currently employed. I'm also committed to being transparent. My records are all available. I've made them available on my Facebook page and my website. You can go through and not only just listen to me tell you about the training that I have, you can go through and evaluate for yourself whether or not you think that I have the what it takes to get this job done. I put my DD-214 on the internet for all to view. I put my post-training profile on the internet for all to view. I plan on putting a copy of my bachelor's degree on the internet for all to view.
And Mr. Martin, what grade do you give the current sheriff and why?
I'll give him a C-. He came into office with the opportunity to do some really great things. He came into office when the department was in a shambles. It had been rocked by a lot of scandals, and there was a couple years of admittedly poor leadership in that department that needed to be fixed. He had a tremendous opportunity to go forward and restore the image and improve the image of not only the sheriff's department but the image of Lake County, because I think that's what a lot of this is about. What do people that live inside Lake County and people that think about coming to visit, live, or work in Lake County think of Lake County? I think I give him a below average grade on that because I think that a lot of what he has done has tarnished that image. There's been some bad news that has come out of Lake County in regards to the sheriff's office, and none of it's from the deputies on the street. It comes from him. I've talked personally with lots of people that have expressed disappointment, and I've talked to people that have felt even betrayed by the sheriff because he didn't keep his promises. Some of the promises that he didn't keep were the Office of Citizen Complaints, the Citizens Review Board. He talked about having a Meet the Sheriff forum every month or so, and those things just didn't come to fruition. He made a lot of baseless accusations against really good people at the sheriff's department, including accusations of racism, and those things just simply weren't true. I think my grade is a C-. I think he's done a below average job.
Sheriff Rivero,
Yes, sir.
how would you grade, on a scale of 1 to 10 or a letter grade, your option, how would you grade morale in the sheriff's department?
I would say morale is at an 8, and the reason for that is there's been a 7-year moratorium on pay raises. It gives no opportunity for the deputies to see a light at the end of the tunnel. 7 years is a long time to be without any type of increase, and that is problematic. It also affects recruitment and retention. There was a salary survey recently done, and it showed that the Lake County Sheriff's deputies in the Deputy 2 position were 31.4% below the mean average of 12 surrounding counties. I believe that's shameful, and I have tried to rectify that. I've been to the board, or at least the CAO, on several occasions. I was able to, out of my own budget money for a 2.5% raise for them, which isn't much, but it'd be something, and that was turned down. I also believe that they've been treated unfairly in their MOU negotiations, that the county has not acted in good faith with the sheriff's office in general and the entire county, because the county is in fact the biggest employer in the county, and this glass ceiling or moratorium that they have on cost of living increases applies to everyone that works for the county. If I can just finish, apart from that issue, I give the morale an 8 because I am there every day seeing what these officers are doing, seeing how, despite the fact that they have this glass ceiling and despite the fact that they are severely underpaid, they go out every day, they contact the public. We do random surveys of the public, which I look at, and those surveys come up far and away very positive for these experiences that the publics have with the officers. So I think that is a direct reflection of morale and the job that they're doing.
Thank you. Mr. Martin, Sheriff Rivero has graded the morale as an 8. Do you agree?
I will. We don't agree on a lot of things, but one thing that I will agree with the sheriff on is that the pay is dismally low in this county. And when you talk about morale is kind of this thing that how do you define it? How can you scoop up a pile of morale and put it on this table here and show me what it is? To me, what morale is pride when you go to work and being ready and well trained to do the job. Our sheriffs here, and also knowing that you have the support of your employer or your administration. The low pay here, I think, I wouldn't score the morale quite as high as he does, and for the reasons that the pay is not very good here. We often lose deputies. We lose probation officers at the probation department to surrounding counties, and they almost always cite the reason that they leave is due to low pay. When you have an administration that's able to adequately train your people and get them ready to go out and do their job, and they go out there knowing that they have the support of the administration, that if they do make a mistake, that they won't have their heads cut off and their careers terminated because of it, that if there's a training opportunity available from a mistake and nobody's gotten hurt, that we can provide that training opportunity. Those things will serve to increase that morale. The score of 8, I think, maybe a little bit high. I might not be in a position to say because I don't work there and I'm not actively involved with the deputy sheriffs, but what I can say is that when they do show up to work every day, they do a professional job. They work hard, they're committed and dedicated because they love this profession.
Mr. Rivera, I have one more question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
As sheriff, what would be your top 3 priorities regarding a proactive approach to public safety?
Well, the number 1 priority we just discussed, which would be recruitment and retention. The job of law enforcement is very unique in many ways, and when you issue somebody the type of power that you issue them, when you give them a gun and a badge and the power to take somebody's freedom away, the power to take somebody's life under certain circumstances, the power to take their children, it's important that you hire the best possible person, and then after you hire them, that you train them and mold them to what you expect and what the public expects from them. So my highest priority is to break that glass ceiling, because without doing that, all the other things become much more difficult. Once you can retain the individuals that we have, and mind you, we have some really great folks there, and when you're able to recruit great people, then you can do really extraordinary things. So that priority sits above everything else because the other things rely on it. I plan on continuing to aggressively pursue the narcotics trafficking in this county, and that I have done. I was a former San Francisco police narcotics investigator. I'm well familiar with the business. I understand the business, and I think that we've done a fantastic job. And if you look at the numbers of arrests compared to when the previous administration was in office in 2010 versus 2011, 12 or 13, you will see that all that pans out. Furthermore, the narcotics is really the underpinning for so many other crimes. When you look at other crimes, burglaries, people are involved either in trying to obtain narcotics or they're burglarizing homes, elder abuse, financial elder abuse. Many times you have individuals who prey on seniors because they need money for drugs. Child abuse. You have people who are using narcotics and mistreating their children. And the third thing I think is very important is that we complete our jail expansion. Under AB 109, we have had an enormous increase in the amount of prisoners in the jail. There were also 10,000 hard criminals released into the state of California. We did get a $20 million grant, and we will be breaking ground hopefully soon on a new expansion. And part of that expansion involves having an area to do retraining and try to keep the recidivism down.
Marijuana grows, a lot of confusion. What are the marijuana laws going to be in this county? By your own admission, you're understaffed in the sheriff's department and you need more people. Are you going to be able to enforce whatever marijuana law comes down the road? Is it a priority for you? Mom and pop grows. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Will your department be able to enforce the laws that are going to be on the books fairly soon? I don't know what they are because we're going to have an election about that too.
Is that question directed towards me?
You can go first.
Okay. I feel fortunate in that I'm running for sheriff and that I don't have to run for an office where we're tasked with coming up with a law that's acceptable to enough people in this county, because I don't know that that's ever going to be possible. From the beginning of my campaign, I've had a platform that I'm going to concentrate my efforts. The job of the sheriff is to concentrate his or her resources in an effort that's most conducive to what the people in the community want. There are 5 areas of focus that my deputies are going to be tasked with enforcing when they decide to enforce marijuana operations. Number 1 is going to be large-scale commercial growing operations. Whatever the law is, we know that people abuse the medical marijuana laws to grow for profit. These large-scale grows are the ones that draw crime to our communities. I think socially, marijuana is becoming just about as acceptable as smoking and drinking, and even the most conservative people realize that marijuana isn't the problem. What the problem is the violence that it brings to our communities. And these large-scale commercial growing operations that we have growing in our neighborhoods, out in the public lands, are the ones that draw the crime and the violence to our communities. So that's going to be the number 1 priority. Number 2 is going to be growing on public lands, the national forest and the BLM lands. I grew up in this community, and I spent a lot of times up there. And if I want to go up there, if you want to go up there, that should be treated like your backyard. If you want to hunt, fish, horseback, bird watch, whatever, you should be able to go up there and feel safe doing so. Marijuana growers who trespass on other people's property to do this. There's a lot of property parcels out here that are very large, and marijuana growing operations spring up without the knowledge of the owner. I'm going to dedicate efforts to those. Grows that are detrimental to the environment, and when I talk about the environment, I talk about public lands, and I also talk about our neighborhoods. If people come in and convert foreclosed homes to grow houses and ruin the environment in a neighborhood or a community, we're going to go after them, and we're going to make them pay to restore that environment and put the house back in a usable condition. And lastly, I think this is very important with the drought coming up, any theft of water or diversion of natural waterways. Those 5 things are going to be very clear. My deputies are going to go out with direction that if you're going to enforce marijuana laws, your enforcement efforts need to be dedicated at one of those 5 areas.
Sheriff Rivero?
My plan is to continue what I started 3 years ago or 3.5 years ago, and that is to aggressively pursue organized crime and profiteers many of whom are hiding under the veil of Proposition 215 and the Compassionate Care Act, and thereby harming the individuals who do benefit from medicinal marijuana. I made a decision early on to increase the number of officers, dramatically increase the number of officers that are handling narcotics enforcement, including, but not limited to, marijuana. I stand by that decision, and I have no intentions of decreasing those officers. The problem that we have with, that we had here before I took office, we had one individual assigned to marijuana, and that individual was assigned to the federal forest. Now, I too care about the federal forest and the use of open lands, but my way of viewing it is, let me start by cleaning up our own backyard first, and that's exactly what I've done. Now, there's been a lot of talk that we have been concentrating on smaller grows. That's just absolutely untrue. It's false on its face. What we have done is help code enforcement when we are called to stand by in case there is violence, and oftentimes there is violence involved with the marijuana growing, as is evident by the fact that the sheriff's deputies in 2013 took 422 illegal firearms off the streets. From half to 2/3 of those came from marijuana growers. And that's something that we have to consider. I've also enlisted the help of the Drug Enforcement Administration with the understanding, and I want to make this very clear, the Drug Enforcement Administration has a very detailed and complex matrix that you have to fall in between those corners before they will get involved, before the Assistant United States Attorney will file charges on a marijuana case. But
Sir, you've reached your time limit. If you want to wrap up.
I will. The bottom line is, I believe that if you track my record, you will see that we have made tremendous strides in eradicating the marijuana from the Lake County. We have done it in a very methodical way and a very intelligent way, and I will continue to follow those guidelines and continue to press as hard as I can to fix the problem.
Thank you guys so much for coming.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.